following this Ohio train derailment situation?
Very briefly. So not in depth. I just know that there's been a really, really, really bad train wreck, contamination, spill that's going to affect a lot of people. I just remember, do you remember when we were growing up, if there was an oil spill and a seal got covered in oil,
it was a massive deal.
It broke the news.
Yeah, the whole, was it Louisiana, the Gulf Coast?
Yeah.
And how big of a deal that was?
Yeah, which one was that?
What oil company?
It started with an E, didn't it?
Do you remember? BP? BP.
Was that, BP, yeah. BP was one. But there was one when we were younger. There was another one when we were younger that was bad too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm like you. I've followed it from afar, obviously. And I've been listening to it. You ever listen to Breaking Points? You ever heard that? It's a podcast, but it's a YouTube channel / radio show, I guess. They're two independent. They both worked in the news industry for a long time. It's a guy and a girl, and the girl is more left leaning, the guy's more right leaning. Oh. And they're an independent outlet. In fact, they were doing so well. They started the show while they were part of big media. Did so well, they went off on their own, and now they're just crushing it.
Good for them.
It's called Breaking Points with.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking about that today.
Yeah.
About even podcast hosts, right? And you kind of have this echo chamber, and we've talked about it. I love when different sides agree, and not the Skip Bayless and
it's made for TV.
Yeah.
Well, that's the good thing about these two is they're not putting their opinion on stuff. They're reporting the news. They're true journalists. They'll give their opinion some, but it's mostly objective, reporting facts, going in depth, and it's an hour and 45 minutes with no commercial interruption. So it's not like they have 7-minute segments that they got to do their story and then move on to the next one. So it's way better. Anyway, they've been talking about it quite a bit the last few weeks, but yeah, it's wild. The people there, I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures. Somebody took a picture from an airplane, like a passenger plane as they're flying by. It's like a massive ring of black smoke covering this entire area. Another guy took a video on his phone. It looked like storm clouds rolling in, but it was black smoke because I guess they had to burn whatever chemicals to prevent an explosion. They had to do a controlled burn. Okay. And when they did that, it just created all sorts of. It's in the water system.
I was going to say that they were saying in the water. That's where it's the
pets
worst.
Pets are dying in the area.
Heads are falling off.
People are having to leave this. I mean, it's a small town. I mean, just imagine having.
But they're saying the water supply could affect millions.
Well, because rivers run obviously downstream, and somebody. What? In fact, somebody took a rock and threw it in one of the rivers near there, and it bubbled up. No. The water was bubbling up. Yeah. So it's not a good situation at all.
And it's not. I mean, I haven't seen it.
Now,
granted, I'm not a big news watcher.
I'm not either. They're my source of news pretty much. I don't go to CNN or Fox News. Or
so do you jump on YouTube and you
I listen to the audio. I just have them on my app on my podcast.
Interesting.
App.
Okay.
So it's Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, and they're really good. I think they do 2 or 3 episodes a week.
You guys just got a new.
There you go.
New listener.
Yeah, objective news journalism. Go check them out. But anyway, yeah, it's one of the and it highlights. We talked about it in the dopamine book. When the problem doesn't personally affect you, how little you pay attention.
Yeah.
You and I were vaguely following. For these people, this is real life. This is their everyday. They're having to leave their town. Who knows? Small towns, people don't. It's not like people come in and out and move. That's generations of families.
Yes.
Stereotypically in a small town.
Yeah.
And so to have to leave your town with who knows how much money in your bank account, what do you do?
I was going to say, I mean, does insurance cover that?
It's apparently been a debacle, just all fronts. The government's not really talking much about it. The FEMA's finally gotten there and helping a little bit, but yeah, it's bad news. And again, I feel bad as a human being that I don't pay more attention, but at the same time, what do I?
Well, yeah, that's
other
a hard
than donate
part.
money. What do I do?
Yeah, donate, and I think just kind of keeping them, in your thoughts and prayers. I mean, we saw what it did for Damar, right? It's important when people that are going through something know that, their country is behind them and supports them, and hopefully that there's monetary help, there's just bringing somebody in, hopefully the hospitality standpoint, if you do have to relocate, like someone's willing to open their door and say, hey, look, take you in, help you out. And hopefully we rally to help them.
Yeah, it's crazy. But to what your point earlier, it does highlight, I mean, there's so many good independent outlets out there now. The big, media corporations that are maybe covering it, maybe not, because of their relationships and who's sponsorships and things like that. You got all these independent people that are like, no, we're going to cover this type stuff because it's important. And so that's why it's cool. Like I said, breaking points with Crystal and Soccer.
Well, and I love, and even the independent, like the podcast platform and YouTube and all that, for the most part, right? Censorship is at a minimum, right? So you can say things that need to be said in a way that people can understand and comprehend, a lot more detailed than your traditional.
Yeah, you're not beholden to number one sponsors, but number two segments. Yeah, that's the worst. Commercial breaks, it's terrible. Yeah, that's why podcasts are so much better. Yeah, I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched a news station, even a local news. I don't even watch that.
Last night I was flipping through and Ducey was on and he was talking about.
See the sports guy?
Yeah, he was talking about Max Duggan from TCU, how he got the quarterback at TCU. Anyways, and I forgot how choppy it was, because you say, okay, they can't spend 7 minutes on a topic. Yeah, they have 15 seconds on a topic
to answer.
Yeah, and it's like, what did I actually get out of this?
When you first said Max Duggan, I thought you were talking about the kid that won the slam dunk contest. Did you hear about that over the weekend?
Yeah, that was
Mac McClung. Yeah. Had you ever heard of him before?
I feel like I've seen one of his high school. Yes. So was he in high school, or was he? I mean,
no. He went viral first in high school. I think he graduated high school like 17 or 18.
Okay.
He's a 5'11". I don't know how tall he is. 6 foot. Not very tall.
I saw some of the clips walking by some NBA guys, and he was little.
Yeah, he looks like an accountant. He does not look like a basketball player. Oh yeah. He's probably 5'11", 6 foot, little white kid. Not exactly your stereotypical freak athlete, but the dude can hop.
Oh my gosh, it was
out the gym,
crazy. So is he playing still, or is that
he's
just
in the D League?
Okay,
and I feel like he's kind of come up and down. He actually has a really cool backstory. I haven't followed it super closely, but supposedly he turned down over $1 million this year to go to Turkey and play, because he said, no, I want to stay in the D League. This is where the NBA coaches are. My dream is to play in the NBA. This is where I want to be. And so he went to Texas Tech. Either originally went to Texas Tech and then transferred to Georgetown, or vice versa. Went to Georgetown and then transferred. I know he played at both schools. Okay. Freak athlete. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily translate to crazy in-game ability, but man, if you like the underdog, if you want to root for the underdog, that is a dude to get behind, because again, he's foregoing money, real money that he could be making for this opportunity.
Well, it reminded me of some good money now.
Well, but he's playing G League. They don't make much.
I'm not talking about G League. I'm talking about now what he's making from social media.
Well, I was going to say that over the weekend he went absolutely mega viral, and there's no telling what his life.
So he made all those on his first attempt too. He didn't miss any dunks.
Yeah, that's nuts. He's a freak show. That's absolute freak show. It was really cool. So,
and it was subtle stuff too, like the first one that he did, where he took it off of the guy, went over the two guys, and then bounced it off the backboard and then did it.
That's one of those you don't catch it first time until the second. Yeah, you got to watch it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. So I don't follow NBA. I could care less. It's just for whatever reason, NBA just doesn't resonate with me. Same. And I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of minutes I've watched in the last 5 years, but I can get behind a story like that. So anyway, that was cool. That happened over the weekend. Before we jump into today's topic, though, I do want to shout out our sponsors, our partners. First and foremost, Sleep Number. We come in, week out. I think everybody up to this point is caught up with the idea that sleep is important. Yeah. I think we feel it now more than ever. I think we see it now more than ever. It's talked about now more than ever. Mm-hmm. And there is nobody else out there in the sleep game doing bigger, better, more technologically advanced things than Sleep Number. So that's the technical side, the product that they created. Mm-hmm. Which is an unbelievable product. We talked about this last week, though, the people behind it.
Yes.
That's what a lot of my money, I like to spend my money on nowadays, is I'm more mindful of who's behind the product. Yeah. And they are just the top-notch, best of the best people. So go to sleepnumber.com, go to a local store. They're everywhere. I actually have one right down the street from me. About to upgrade my sheet game. My sheets are
same. Tiff asked me actually this morning on my way here. She was like, hey, can can I get that contact?
Yeah.
We need to get some more sheets.
Got to upgrade that.
But story about that really quickly is, so I was sick kind of beginning of last week, and just like my body hurt, and the ability to change the positions, right, and sleep in certain positions. No doubt, I probably shaved a day off of my overall because I got rest.
Yeah.
I actually slept when I was sick. Like literally on Monday, I left here when I had to dip. I literally finished a call and I was asleep by like 3:30 or 4.
Oh, wow.
And then I didn't wake up until the next morning at like 8 a.m.
So the last episode we recorded last week, just know Ty's coming. He's playing through adversity because we recorded that episode, last week's episode, and apparently you weren't
hurting.
I knew you weren't feeling great, but I didn't know it was that bad.
I was hurting, and I fell asleep. Like I said, I had to finish a call, fell asleep, and I didn't wake up until we have a Tuesday morning meeting. I literally turned it on in the background just so I was on. And sorry, Brad, if you're listening. Was totally paying attention. It was totally engaged. But like slept until like 9:30 that next day.
Jeez.
Yeah, dude, it was. But
if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is.
That's what I'm saying, is because I could sleep, because of the comfort, because of the positions, like it got me able to breathe, like it took stress off of my back. And then Tiff is now not feeling great, and same thing. And so she actually like woke up this morning and I was like, hey, how'd you do? She goes, I actually slept. Like, I don't feel great still, but I slept all night long.
That's right on.
So it was great.
I don't want to add any more to that. That's perfect. It's a great endorsement. So go to sleepnumber.com. or local store. And then also our other partner, Choctaw Casinos and Resort. Yeah. We teased this last week. Today it's legit. I think it's 79 degrees outside and perfectly sunny as we're recording this.
Yep.
So to me, that reminds me of this is the second summer the resort style pool will be open.
My kids asked yesterday if they could swim. And I was like, oh, we're getting to that time of year.
Absolutely. It's that time of year.
We're getting there.
So get yourself up to Choctaw. Great new resort style pool, brand new hotels. That's not to mention all the slot machines, the games that they have, all the restaurants that they have, tons and tons of. I mean, summertime is a great time for concerts.
Concerts. I was just going to say, I was just talking to a client who works with Choctaw as well. They do a bunch with them, and they were just raving about the concerts they have. They're based out of Durant, Oklahoma as well, and they're raving about the concerts they have there. So go check those out because, I mean, world-class concerts in a world-class venue that just sounds amazing.
That's right. That's right. It's a short drive up I-75 if you're here in Dallas. And it's the only entertainment venue that'll pay you. You'll leave there with more money than you got there sometimes. Unless you suck at games.
Sometimes. I was actually talking to one of the Dude Perfect guys, and he was up there this last week. He loves going up there as well, so you may catch a Dude Perfect guy up there.
There you go. Yeah, you may catch a celebrity. Unlike Tyler now, you may catch a real celebrity up there.
You'll walk right by both of us until we start talking.
So appreciate Choctaw Casinos and Resort for their support as well. So topic today, I don't know if you've caught this the last two episodes. Actually, let me back up a little bit. Let me lead into it this way. I think when parenting, one of the biggest challenges with parenting is all of the 997,463 things that you have to think about when you're raising this little human. Mm-hmm. And then if you have multiple kids, it's multiply that by how many kids you have, because no kid's the same. And so I'm thinking about all these life lessons I want to impart and what's sticking, what's not, what are they gravitating towards, what's their personality like. And one of the biggest cliches I think I heard growing up, not from my parents necessarily, but just from society in general, was you can do anything. You can be anything. You can accomplish anything. That was one of the, I don't know if you remember hearing that growing up at all.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very big tagline growing up. And again, I don't know if you've caught this the last couple episodes with Mark Herzlich and Phil Boone, but they've both, without provocation, they've both mentioned that, like Mark, for instance, his biggest lie society tells you is you can be anything you want to be. Yep. And then Phil touched on that as well. So they actually took the opposite stance. You can't be anything that you want to be. And I wanted to expand on that because actually that we posted a clip a few weeks ago from Mark's episode. And it was that one clip about him talking about you can't be anything that you want to be. And we got some pushback from some people in the comments. And when you first hear that statement, no, you can't be anything that you want to be. I'll admit my initial reaction, my gut reaction is, oh, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to hear that. But as I think through it, and I want to get your perspective on this, What do you think about that statement? You can either take one side or the other. You can be anything that you want to be, or you can't be anything that you want to be. What's your overall thought on that? Because I think this is one of those lessons that I'm going to have to, discuss with my kids.
Yeah.
And I have some thoughts on how I'm going to go about that. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah. So, there's some things that you just can't overcome. And I think, like, cliche wise, if you're 5'5", chances are you're not going to be an NBA player. Mm-hmm. Muggsy Bogues did it.
Right.
So people have done it. So I think you can be anything. Never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from that. But I think the question is, and I learned this kind of going through the transition out of football and onto something, is I could have done anything, right? I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. I could have been a truck driver. I could have been, a Santa Claus. I think that you can do anything if you are willing to put in the work that it takes to achieve that goal and live with the sacrifices that it takes to get there. I think the bigger question is, do you want to do something with your giftings, talents, and passion? Mm-hmm. And I think identifying that, because again, I could have been anything that I want. When you finish football, if you were to decide, tell me a job that 100% was off the board.
For me?
For you. Was there any job?
Well, yeah, because I'm limited by my skills, mm-hmm. my education level.
All things that can change.
All things that they could have changed. Yeah.
Still could.
Right.
There's people that are going to law school in their 50s and 60s.
Sure.
So
I guess the question.
You still could.
Yeah. No, I guess the question is it in that person's DNA? Like you say, you could have been a doctor. Mm-hmm. You could have been a lawyer. Yes, you absolutely could have. You have that skill set if you so choose.
Yeah.
But what about the person that they don't have that skill set? They don't have the mental capacity. They can't retain information. That's where my argument is you can't be anything you want.
But it takes more. Like, it just takes more work. Are you willing to put in the work to overcome any shortcomings that you have, whatever area maybe that you struggle with? Like you hear stories of single moms that go to medical school, raise kids, they will themselves through 7 years of absolute hell because they know on the other side of it, it's worth it, and they do it. Now, there is an element of time that plays into it and how much you can do. Like right now, for you to say, I want to be an NBA basketball player. Well, now, no. Because you can't go back and relearn all those skills at 5 years old.
Right.
So there's a time.
Nor did that desire even occur to me.
Right. But let's just say it did. Yeah. But when we're telling our children at 3, 4, 5, because I think that's what this conversation is more geared around, right? Talking to our kids.
Yeah.
Is when we're talking to them, and like my son wants to be an NFL player, my 9-year-old. And the conversation I'm having with him is, bud, you can do it. But are you willing to put in what it takes to get there?
So I think in that scenario, let's use that example.
Yeah.
You probably see limitations in your son that would hinder him from accomplishing ultimately that goal.
Absolutely.
The question is it helpful for you to, in a negative way, crush that spirit and crush that dream? Now, if your son had no desire to be a football player, mm-hmm. he was into chess.
Yep.
The conversation changes.
Yeah.
So to me, where I sit today, and again, this is my first time parenting, I think my stance today is I'm going to help them find what it is that what it is they desire.
Yeah.
What is they're interested in. Like my 2 boys, for instance, are completely different when it comes to the sports topic. My oldest son has always been in sports, has always been gifted that way. Second son could care less. He'll get into a little bit, but he's more interested in trucks, cars, things like that.
Yeah. And he's at an age where it's still hard.
3, right.
Your older was like all in from the day he came out.
And that's all I have to compare it to. Cooper at 2 was into, I mean, we would literally, even before that, we would sit there and watch baseball as a kid, and he would sit there just locked in to a baseball game. He can't even walk yet.
Yeah.
Whereas my other son, so to me, it's what skills do they have, what desires do they have, what talents and abilities do they have.
Yeah.
To me, that's where I come in and say you can do anything within that realm.
Yeah.
But for me to sit here and say you can do anything, that any possibility is open, I'm not sure how helpful that is if they don't have the desire.
That's right.
To do just
and I think
just anything.
Parents, that's our job, is we have to navigate that.
Right.
So we have to understand what their desire early on is, and be honest with them. Mm-hmm. Like, we can be encouraging, because I think that it's really important that like optimism is apparent, very, very apparent from a parenting perspective, because I think kids feed off of that, right? Mm-hmm. They feed off of positivity or they feed off of negativity. And do you want to encourage their confidence, or do you want to deflate their confidence? But you also have to be honest, so that, like Phil's kids, when he said, you know, the only criticism I may have is that you told us we could do anything.
Yeah.
And
you really had us believe and we could do anything.
But I would go back and say, okay, what is it that you wanted to do then that now you're saying you couldn't do? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, did you put in the work back then? That's us as parents. That's why we've got to be present. And through the process, it's, okay, from my experiences, from my knowledge, and me and having a son that says he wants to play football, which, again, I think he likes the idea of it. I don't know if he really truly loves it. But, like, okay, you say you want, I know enough to get you to a certain point. But then as parents also, too, we have to be ready to say, okay, now I need to bring in outside help right now. I need to, and I'm not saying, hey, like, get your kid into like one-on-one, you know, get a throwing coach at 6 years old. Sure. But what I'm saying is, we know enough to encourage them, but also it's like, hey, did you get up and do the things today? Did you get better, or did you take a step closer to your dream of being an NFL player today?
Yeah.
Did you, or did you not? Because it's important that you do, but also it's also about how big that step is. Because for some people, that step on a daily basis needs to be larger, because you have to make up ground just from God-given talent. But I don't believe that there's anything truly, if you are absolutely 100% like absolutely passionate about, unless you have some sort of disability, like say you want to be a pilot and you are legally blind,
right?
Like, that's something that like you can't overcome that, right? But outside of that, I do believe that you can encourage them, and you can take steps from an early age. And sometimes it takes a kid starting a career path at 10,
right?
If that's really truly what they want. But to say, oh no, you can't do everything, I think it discredits the amount and the value of work, dedication, discipline, all of those things, because I do think that those can stack up, and you can make up ground if you do it in a certain way.
Yeah, and it may be semantics, but I think the statement is misguided that you can do anything, because the fact of the matter is you're going to have a set of skills, a set of abilities, a set of desires, a life experience that's going to limit you to a certain number of things that you actually can do. So when you say you can do anything,
could do easily.
Well, but again, for me, my musical talent was never, let's take that for example.
Yeah.
That thought never even crossed my mind. I want to be a musician one day. So for me to say, I can be a musician, for my personal experience, that was not in the cards for me, because I showed no desire for music, no ability for music, didn't have a family background in music. In no way, shape, or form does anything in my brain or DNA say I'm going to be a musician one day.
But what is the first question that you asked? The first question you asked was, you can do anything you want to.
Yeah.
You can be anything you want to be. Well, number one is you have to want to be that.
Right. And that's the point.
Right.
I think the statement, you can be anything you want to be, it feels a little bit cheap. It feels a little bit lazy, if that's not too strong.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess my overall point is, I want to figure out or help my kids, instead of saying, hey, you can do anything you want to do, you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
I want to take the active approach of, helping them find what they really want to go after.
Yeah.
And then in that realm,
yeah.
So let's say my kid, no, neither one of them show any musical inclination.
Yeah.
But let's say they did.
Yeah.
Now my job as a parent is to help them
explore that
desire.
Yeah.
And in that realm, yes, you can be a musician if you do A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Which I don't know exactly what those are. But my point is,
I think it starts
because they're showing interest, because they're showing desire,
yes,
despite their limitations,
yep,
I'm going to really feed in that. I think that's a healthy reinforcement, as opposed 100%. To just saying, hey, bud, you can do anything you want to do.
Yeah, and then just leave it. And then leave them off their own. Right. Like, that's our job, is to nurture and encourage and then lead, because they don't know, hey, I want to be able to sing, I got to get a vocal coach. Right. Or I need to get guitar lessons, or I need to learn how to read sheet music, or all these things. They don't know that at an early age. So as parents, we can put them in those positions. Mm-hmm. But I agree, number one, it has to start with them deciding that that's something that they're interested in.
Right.
Now, kids at very early age, right? I wanted to be a pilot when I was younger. I thought that was awesome, and I really wanted to. And I, started like early on, like, okay, what do I need to do for school? Do I need to go military? Like, I was set going military. Like, that was what I was going to do. And then there was a vision challenge that I had, and I was like, oh, well, I can get LASIK, so I'm good. But then I lost the passion for it.
Right.
And I didn't want to be a pilot anymore.
That's the other thing, is kids, you change, right?
Yeah, it changes.
When you're 8, you want to do something. When you're 12, you want to do something different.
Totally.
So that's the other thing, is it ebbs and flows. You got to be fluid with that.
Yeah. But outside of, I think, being a professional athlete and anything that's kind of somewhat age restricted, I take that back. No, even like, think about modeling. Think about modeling.
When I was thinking about this topipic, by the way, I went back and forth.
Dude,
no, you can't be anything you want to be. Yes, you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
No, you can't do anything you want to. I went back and forth.
Think about now, like, models. It honestly doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't. Like, they're all types and sorts and shapes and colors, and I mean, totally different. So if, like, you want to be a model, like, there's going to be a lot of work that it takes. I mean, think about this. Like, you could be ugly. You could look like me, but you can get absolutely shredded, and that is 100% in your control, and be a fitness model. Yeah. Doesn't matter what your face looks like.
Right.
You could be ugly as sin.
You might have to take a lot more stuff to get there.
Yeah. Okay. But then there's skin treatments. Yeah. You could dye your hair. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. Right. If that's something that you're totally into and want to chase. Yeah.
No, you're definitely right. Something like that has definitely changed over the course of the last 30 years, 20 years, because 1995, not anybody could be, because the window was so small.
Totally.
You're right.
Yeah. You look like Cindy Crawford or that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you, okay, let's take if you don't mind, let's take your son as an example.
Yeah.
Again, you understand exactly what it's going to take to get there. You see his limitations, you see his abilities, you see his desires. What he's saying today is, I want to be an NFL player. Yeah. So for you as a dad, how are you cultivating that? What are some things that y'all are doing at home to encourage that?
So with this and a number of others, is there's a balance, because number one, for me, I want him to maintain that desire. So forcing him into it is going to push him away, especially, and you got to know your personality. That's him. Like, if I force him, if I make him get up and go train, he doesn't want to do it. When it's his idea, he can crush it. He actually does really well. So there's got to be the element with football and in a lot of sports, is they're too hard not to have fun doing it. Yeah. Especially at this age.
Right.
And so encouraging just the passion for it is number one. I can do a much better job of being present, and then even like stepping back sometimes, because
how hard is that?
It's super hard because he and I are wired very differently. Like, my younger son and I are wired like similar, and my oldest daughter, she's a beast. Like, she'll go, and like won't complain, won't whine. Whereas he just is different in that way. Like, and we've talked about this. He doesn't push back on pressure, right? He typically will like give in to pressure. So there's some things there. And so I'm learning, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I support this, create some resilience from him? But also just like, I want him to be able to, use his personality traits, his giftings, and then want to do it himself and get through it himself. So for him, it's part of it is being his fan and not his coach. And I catch myself all the time. Like, oh, you need to do this. Hey, when you throw it, make sure you're throwing here. Oh, when you catch it, 2 hands. Hey, stronger hands. I mean, like, I'll just like boom, 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 constant. Like if we,
I feel you on
and
that.
he asks me all the time, hey, can we just go play catch? Can we go play catch? Can we go play catch? I mean, it's 2 or 3 times a day minimum. Can we go play catch? And usually it's by the end, it's like, okay, fine. You know, I need to be able to say, look, this email can wait. This call, whatever. Like I need to be able to like put some things aside within reason, right? Mm-hmm. Put some things aside and say, look, dude, I'm all in. Let's go. Let's 15 minutes. Dude, let's catch 50 balls.
Yeah, and in that 15 minutes, it's knowing, is this 15 minutes where we're just playing catch and we're just being dad and son?
Yeah.
Or is this 15 minutes of I'm going to give them feedback, I'm going to give them coach? Like, it's knowing that,
I
too,
think it can be both, right? I think it can. Like, I think it's, I mean, they're smart. They know, like, hey, I'm not doing this, but, like, to the point where let them ask. Mm-hmm. Again, with him, it's got to be his idea.
Right.
So if you're just forcefully inserting coaching points all the time, he feels like I'm not good enough. Right. I'm getting judged.
Right.
Where like my oldest like thrives on that. Like, hey, do this. Okay, cool. And like really focus on it. Like we had a conversation Saturday morning. We had this little playoff basketball game, and we went out, and it was like freezing. Like it was freezing. It was in like the 20s, and we're outside shooting hoops. And I just went out to like be there for him and support him. And I ended up like raising my voice and like, you got to be coachable. And I'm like, and where the basketball hoops at in our house, it kind of echoes. And I heard myself. I'm like, oh, dude, don't be that dad. Please don't be that dad. So being able to nurture the passion, I think, is number one. Whatever it is, whether it's being hard and coaching and pushing them, or encouraging fun, and then let them, and then when they come and ask for help. But back to the point is being honest. I am honest with him. Like, hey, bud, the NFL, you've got a lot of things to do. And you are built like a tackle, not a quarterback or a receiver or a running back at this point right now. Mm-hmm. So if those are things that you want to do, you've got to work on speed. You've got to work on agility. You got to work on hands. You've got to work on these things, because other kids your age that are in those positions, they've developed those skills before you have. So you got to catch up.
Right. Yeah. And it's the hard part of parenting / the exciting part.
Yeah.
And keeps it fresh is, like you said, when you're out there with your daughter,
yeah, you
can coach her a certain way. You can guide her a certain way. You can talk to her a certain way. But then you've got to switch that off. As soon as you start doing one-on-one with your son, you got to completely change your approach.
Yeah.
My oldest son, and again, my youngest son hasn't shown a lot of desire for sports. It's more trucks and fun. And again, he's young. He's 3.
Yeah.
But my 6-year-old he's a weird balance of, he appreciates the coaching, but not too much coaching.
Yeah.
He's like your son, meaning he wants to have the idea himself.
Yeah.
So when we're out playing, soccer in the backyard, I have to be very careful with how much feedback I'm giving versus how much encouragement I'm giving. Yeah. And I haven't quite struck the balance. A lot of times it ends up in tears. But.
Yeah. And I thought about this the other day. My boys love doing one-on-ones, and my older one just crushes the little one, but like, cause he's so much taller and bigger. But
3 years might as well be 30 years. At that age.
And my 9-year-old is huge for his age, and then my 6-year-old is tiny for his age. So it's like this David and Goliath thing going on, right? But I was thinking about this because my younger one got frustrated. He wanted to leave, and I just remember I'm like, okay, what's more important? That we throw 100 balls to each other, and I don't coach him at all, and he loves it because he's having fun. Is he going to get better then, or throwing 10 and he quits because dad's yelling at him about not doing things right? Yeah. He's going to get better throwing 100 balls. Mm-hmm. So like, I think parents out there, keep that in mind, is repetitions do add up. Like, you can subtly change technique. You can clean that up over time. But like, what's most important, especially for like hand-eye coordination, is repetitions.
Yeah. Well, and that's the hard part in this example. because I do feel like I have something to offer and give.
I wish you knew how good I
was. Not exactly that, but yeah, sort of.
But pretty much.
Meaning I know way more now than what, and it's not my dad's fault, but than what my dad knew when he was growing up and playing with us, just because of life experience and where I played and playing as much as I did. So that's the other frustration is I know, but he doesn't. Sometimes my 6-year-old, he doesn't want to coach. He wants his dad. He just wants to play. He doesn't care about this technique or that technique, or if this is going to, he doesn't grasp that this is going to make me a better player. He just wants to have fun with his dad. And again, maybe that changes as he gets older and more mature. But again, for me, it's sprinkling enough of that coaching and that feedback to where it's helpful. Like you said, I think that was a great example, but not too much to where he wants to quit and not play anymore.
That's right.
In fact, we were out playing soccer yesterday at the park, and it was a dad and his son and then another dad. And they looked like they were brothers, so it was like a cousin-brother type deal.
Okay.
And this dad and his son were on the same team playing the uncle and the cousin. And this dad was just crushing his son. I mean, and it's one of those things, it's like being detached from this situation, it's easy to judge.
For sure.
In the moment, I know what he's doing. He's trying to help his son be better, but just stepping back and hearing it from the outside, I felt horrible because the kid was wearing like cargo shorts and like tennis shoes. Like he had no desire to be out there playing soccer. And you could just tell his dad was a good soccer player at some point. And so anyway, that's not to judge the guy, but it was a good reminder to me of what it looks like and how the kid
and remember psychologically, and I've talked about this quite a bit, psychologically, what are you reinforcing? You're reinforcing that performance is what it takes to get my love as a parent, as a dad. God, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. So like I think of that scenario, like, man, just being okay with your kid the way that they are, not where they're gonna be someday. Like right in this moment, like there's teaching lessons and there's certain things that I think foundationally it's like, hey, look, as a parent, like we believe in these things. Like, you know, for me, it's grit, humility, and then just like team first mentality when it comes to sports. Like those are things that like I'm going to probably always stay on you about. Like I don't want you out there doing the gritty and spiking the ball on somebody. Like we've had that conversation way too many times.
Does your 6-year-old walk anywhere anymore?
Nope.
Neither does mine.
Nope.
He
nope.
gritties
6
everywhere.
and 9-year-old. Everything. And when we were at the Super Bowl talking to Justin Jefferson, I was like, hey, bro, it's good to see that you actually know how to walk, that it's possible to be able to do the gritty when you do it and then walk normally outside of that. It's good to know because my kid hasn't figured that out yet.
Make walking great again.
But I just, you know, back to the point of enjoying your kid who they are. Like imagine like a 2-on-2 game. You're playing with your son and there's another dad and his kid. And you just being his fan, even though it's hard to turn the competitiveness off. Like I just think about that interaction, man, and the beauty on the other side of it, as opposed to, you know, a dad just being on his kid about it. Because all that does is that reinforces your only value to me is when you perform and you make me proud. And that's too much pressure for a kid, especially younger kids like ours.
Yeah. I'm going to have to be mindful of that because it is a weird ego thing for me that how my 6-year-old performs on Saturdays and Sundays is a reflection on my parenting.
Isn't it crazy?
Which is
never thought I would be that person.
So I'm very much like that with my 6-year-old. I'm hard on him. I want him to do well.
Yeah.
Obviously for him, but there's the ego part that wants it as a reflection. Like it's very important to me that he performs well, which is so stupid to say.
Yeah.
And I think about his long-term growth and his long-term and like it and how much joy it's going to bring if he becomes, you know, this great star athlete. And so it's very much how I am with my 6-year-old. With my 3-year-old, there's no pressure on that at all. I'm very relaxed with him. And again, I think it's partially because of just their desires and what they want.
Yeah.
But with my 3-year-old, like I find myself just like when he tries to play soccer with us and stuff, it's the funniest thing. With my 6-year-old, when he was 3, I probably would have been like, "No, do it this way."
Yeah.
But with my 3-year-old, it's like it's just funny, and I'm laughing the whole time, and it's fun to be out there.
Yep.
And so you're right. I'm gonna have to be very mindful as my 6-year-old grows up because he is a lot like me in that way of wanting to excel at sports and that's something I feel like I know very well.
Yeah.
It's pulling back the reins. This is his journey, not mine. Yeah. Stop trying to live through, because what I see is I can fix all of my mistakes 100%. That I made. Yeah. I can undo everything that I screwed up as a kid in the sports world and make it better so my 6-year-old doesn't screw up.
And I just think, and my dad didn't insert too much, like
my dad
as far
didn't
as
either.
Like coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah, he didn't either.
But even the very few times, and he would wait until I'd ask, which, man, I respect so much.
That's wisdom.
Is even those times, what I remember most is if I had a bad game, literally, and I'm literally still kind of emotional. If I had a bad game, he didn't have anything to say. He'd like, hey, I love you, bud. I know that was tough. And like just that being there. When like my son comes off the court sometimes, I can't wait to get in the car and start talking through the checklist of the things. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing.
And it's like,
we're horrible.
What I know what kids need is they need the unconditional love of their parents.
Yeah.
They don't need another coach.
Right.
They're going to be coached and judged their entire life.
Absolutely.
Now, that being said, we do need to lead our kids, right? Mm-hmm. There are certain things, but there's a time and a place, and the wisdom that you said is the ability to discern which moment is appropriate and which isn't.
Yeah. I think for me, maybe in closing here, that the mantra I try to repeat myself is, what foundational skills are they learning?
Yeah.
The details are less important.
Yeah.
The avenue with which they choose to express these foundational principles, grit, determination, hard work, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's through sports, whether it's through music, whether it's through, construction, whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
Being okay with the modality, as long as those foundational principles.
Right.
And so again, I think the way I'm approaching this, just based on this topic as it is I'm not going to be lazy with my kids and say, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And you got it. It's helping them figure out what they're passionate about, figure out what their abilities are.
Yeah.
And then through those avenues, all right, now you can accomplish, you can take this as far as you want to take it. I've seen it. There's countless examples of people that have had less than you and have done more based on this avenue, based on this desire.
100%.
And for me, that's my job as a parent. It's not to say that they can do anything. It's to help them find the things that they can do and they're passionate about, that they desire, and excel on those things.
And they may be different than what is that you are wired to be passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I think you're exactly right. To be able to expose your kids to different things and let them, and not just stay within your comfort zone. Hey, we live in Texas. We're playing football. Mm-hmm. We run track. That's what we do. We play baseball. Like that's it.
Right.
It's like, no, like get them out. Like let them figure it out. Like my daughter just asked if she could do a graphic design class. Like that's nothing that Tiffany and I, but like she asked about it. So we're like, you know what? Like, go ahead. Let's explore that. Like, go ahead.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll find a class or whatever, some opportunity to do something like that, because I know nothing about that.
And that's probably better.
Yes.
Now you don't have to worry about giving coaching.
Yes.
You can just encourage her.
Yes.
You can give her the resources.
Yeah.
Put those things around her and let her explore that until she doesn't want to anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's almost like, man, like my 3-year-old, like I'm glad he's not into sports. Now it takes all the pressure off.
Yes.
Me having to decide and coach. And again, I'm sure he'll do that stuff, but it's, again, the relationship's different. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Already at 6 and 3. And then I've got another one on the way. So I've got to now rethink for the third time. So anyway, no, this was helpful. I appreciate that feedback, because Phil said it. You're a phase of life ahead of me, and so it's helpful to learn from, because I know you've been through the fire on a lot.
Well,
of
I was
stuff.
going to say from mistakes, learning from mistakes, not because I know, man.
No, absolutely. That's the best way to learn, right?
Daily.
Yeah,
daily.
So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let us know, what are you guys doing with your kids, and for all of you that don't have kids yet, this conversation is probably foreign to you, but hopefully you can bookmark it and listen to it later on when you do have kids. Because again, it's maddening at times, but it's the greatest joy.
Kids are complex, man. Like it's completely unique. Every single one of them is completely unique.
That's right. So Anyway, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great rest of the week, a great weekend. We say this every time. The best way you can help us and support this podcast is by sharing it. Share it with some of your friends that are parents. Start some dialogue with each other. Have a conversation like we didn't plan this. We didn't script it. We just bounced ideas off each other. And I know it was helpful to me. Hopefully it was helpful to y'all. But do the same thing. Maybe send this out to a group of your guy friends, girlfriends that are parents and start that dialogue and help each other out.
See what they think, what their opinions are. Like that's an easy way to start some like actual helpful conversations.
That's right.
Not just, oh, what are your kids doing? Oh, how's work? How's this? Like dig into it. Like become a community that builds each other up, not just like reinforces like what you're doing or bad habits or, just not running on a hamster wheel. Yeah. Like find a community or the community that you're in. Encourage that to be a helpful community.
Appreciate you guys. See you next week.